Hello creative Tartanites, and welcome to this episode of Tea with Tania, where I have a lovely chat with a beautiful person and artist, Larissa West. I'm not going to introduce her any further, as I think that she really did a beautiful job of it herself. I will, however, give you a little disclaimer just now. I did have some technical difficulties with the footage, but I hope that that doesn't really deter you from your enjoyment. So without further ado, I'd like to give you Larissa West. A very warm welcome to you, Larissa. Welcome to my humble abode.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I have a cup of turmeric tea here for Tea with Tania. So Larissa, what are you drinking?
So I have bulletproof coffee. And bulletproof coffee is coffee with, it has butter, grass-fed butter, and MCT oil in it, which is like a refined coconut oil. And so I do a ketogenic diet most of the time. I've been really bad lately. I've been very, very naughty. But it has helped me tremendously. When you have a baby at 45, it's really, really hard to get that baby weight off. And the ketogenic diet has been really great for me. It's not something I probably will continue long term. But it's helped me so much. So this is it's just coffee. I'm having coffee with you.
Oh, lovely. It's a very American thing, isn't it? My American friends keep telling me that coffee's very American.
It is. Yes. It is very American. We have it, and usually, so I'll have coffee in the morning, and then sometimes even late in the afternoon, before, I get ready to start dinner, I'll make a cup of coffee also. So, yeah, we're weird, aren't we? Starbucks everywhere.
No, we've got into the whole coffee thing. We've got more, I don't know if you've got Costa in the States, but it's Costa Coffee, Costa. So I guess it's kind of our equivalent to Starbucks then.
Okay.
There's Costa coffees everywhere. Why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about who is Larissa?
Oh boy, just diving right in there, hitting the hardcore. That is a deep question. Wow. At heart, I'm a thinker. I went to college as a literature and philosophy major and had a minor in political science. And so for me, I have spent most of my life looking beyond the surface. And whether personally or professionally, I always want to see the deeper meaning, the link, the things that tie together, the interconnectedness of things, and the why. Mm-hmm. As much as the how, I want to know the why of things. And so I found art late in life. I had 2 teenage children and a surprise at 44. So I have a little 5-year-old now. So when he was born, I really needed something just for me. And that became art. I did a challenge through a group to do something for myself for 30 days. And I started drawing, and I was horrible, but I was so intrigued because to me, art and drawing or anything like that is a problem-solving issue. Right? Like, oh, the eyes are totally wonky. How do I fix that? Do I lift this one up? Do I lower this one? Everything is problem solving in art to me.
Yeah.
So that really trapped my brain. Like, it captured me completely. And before I knew it, I, would spend hours in the evening after my little man went to bed, sketching, or it was a way for me to not only disconnect from chaos and, everything, but it was also a way for me to connect with me again. Something that I allowed myself to do just for me. Yeah. And it was really great for me, for my soul. Like, it fed my soul. So Yeah, art really has become a love for me. Who else am I? I'm a mom of 3 and a wife and a Texan, which, if you live in Texas, that's a big deal.
Okay.
um,
A little like us Scottish people then. We're very,
yes,
we're very,
proud.
Scotland
Yes.
at the heart, very proud to be Scottish.
Yes, yes. And I'm not a Texan by birth, but I definitely feel like one now. I love their independent and fierce spirit and the warmth. The people in Texas are very warm and engaging. You can talk to anybody about anything. It's nice. I like that a lot. Who else am I? I am definitely an optimist. And even in the worst circumstances, I'm always strategizing and but where's the good? Where's the good? And how do I seize upon that? And I definitely see myself as an encourager. I have an online art group on Facebook. We have artists from all over the world that do all different kinds of art. But I love encouraging them to, when I see them stepping out of the norm and really pushing into something that they've never done before, that is just, that's just food for my soul. I absolutely love seeing people push their boundaries and try different things and, learn and grow. And so I love encouraging people. That makes me really happy. I think that's probably at the core of who I am.
Yeah, you sound very eclectic, very like myself. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. Good luck nailing me down. I'm sorry.
But isn't it interesting though how we as people we are more complex than we give ourselves credit for. A lot of people. I was asking someone quite recently about the reasons why people don't call themselves artists, because actually we wear different hats. So why don't we why don't we acknowledge all parts of it?
And I'm guilty of that. I am one of those people. I say I paint, and they'll say, well, are you an artist? And I'm like, yeah, I suppose so, but I just say that I paint. I think there's a lot of pressure of what does it mean to be an artist. And so I think part of me shying away from that is I always feel like an artist is somebody who has, some magic that I don't have, some ability to produce a masterpiece. And but yet you look at Picasso and he did thousands and thousands of pieces, and yet he's known for 100 or so. So I think we tend to undervalue what we do as creators. I do.
Okay. Do you think then it might be worth thinking about that the opposite to necessarily encouraging people to call themselves artists, but looking at rather than labeling ourselves to maybe not label ourselves then?
Right. Yeah. I think there's values in not labeling ourselves at all. I have on my Pinterest board, one of my life quotes is Walt Whitman, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I'm large. I contain multitudes. I allow that in my life. I'm okay with, changing my opinions, changing my thoughts, changing myself. I want to evolve always. I don't want to be just one thing all the time. I'm okay with having multitudes within me. I think that's an amazing thing as a human.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth it. Whilst I'm very much an advocate for encouraging people to call themselves artists if that's what they believe that they are.
I'll try.
But equally, I think as well that, words are man-made.
Yes.
They come into being because they get used. Our language, our dictionaries, certainly our English dictionary, I'm assuming it's the same in the States, that, they're adding words all the time, and they're invented by people. And so if they're invented by people, they can be surely uninvented, for want of a better word.
I could not agree more. I think that is, I think that's a great point. I think, labels are useful for boxing things in and making them neat and tidy so that we can say, oh, she's an artist, or, he's an electrician, or, any of that, but we are infinitely so much more than that. I see so much potential in humanity, and, I think that the danger in labeling ourselves as something is it maybe limits us from reaching out and doing something more. So a prime example of that, I've been reading a lot of Josh Waitzkin. I don't know if you know who he is. He was, there's a movie called In Search of Bobby Fischer. He was a world champion chess player by the age of 8.
Okay.
And he was a phenom. I mean, he just grasped it so early and so young, and he has a genius intellect. But he left chess after that movie was made. His father made the movie. After that movie was made, it made it almost impossible for him to really continue doing chess because he became a celebrity and people were constantly, he couldn't get in that mental zone anymore.
Yeah.
But what he has done since then is he has become a world champion push hands martial artist.
Okay.
And so his whole thing is, it doesn't matter what you choose to do, your ability to learn is all up here, and this is what we can control, what's between our ears. And there are different learning modalities that will allow you to become the best at whatever you choose to do. And I think we self-limit sometimes, and he's proven that you can do two things that are totally different and still be at the top and excel. So, I think labels are great, but I think they can limit us. And, I love being able to think that I'm an artist, but I also embrace all the other parts of me too. I mean, I love being mom just as much. I love, being I don't know that I'm still a philosopher, but I guess in my brain I am. I love that part of me, that thinking part of me, the critical thinker, just as much as all the other things. So, and I love the interweaving of all of them.
Yeah, I guess for me, the encouragement of getting people to say that they're an artist is not necessarily to say that they're an artist, but more to get away from the negative connotations of saying they can't be an artist because they're not good enough, or they're not, they're not artistic enough, or, so it's not so much that you need to call yourself an artist because that's what you are, but it's more about encouraging people to not take on the negative stuff of not being an artist.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I think that's true too. I think it's really important that that we can say, and do we really have to be, a master to be an artist? Do we? Are we all masters? Maybe. I get questions all the time, and I said this in one of my lessons recently. I have people send me a picture of what they're creating. Is this right? Is this right? I don't know. Is it right? I mean, you're the artist. You're the creator. You get to say if it's right or not. And that's the beauty of art is, we can let go of right and wrong and just use it as a tool of expression. So, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying about, the value of calling yourself an artist. I think it is important. I think you are right about that. Yeah. I think the more that we can, embrace letting go of right and wrong and just using art as a tool of expression, to me, that has a lot of value, especially, in the days that we live in. I think that's important.
Yeah. And certainly, speaking of the days that we live in, we're certainly living in very difficult times right now. For me, being a quote unquote artist is very very solitude, solitary. I paint on my own, generally speaking, but there's lots and lots more people kind of facing that solitude at this moment in time, and it sounds like that it would be an ideal opportunity for us to introduce more creativity into a lot more people's lives. What do you think?
I think you have hit the bullseye. I honestly think that this time in history is so unique, and I think a lot of what we hear and what we're bombarded with is the negative part of it and the fear. But I think there's also wrapped up in there a lot of opportunity for growth and an opportunity for us to transform who we are as people. I mean, if I'm thinking, this is kind of where my brain has been on all of the recent events, is we're in an unprecedented time of time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a lot of time right now and a lot of solitude. And so how are we going to use that time? How are we going to spend that time? Where are we going to allow ourselves to focus, and what are we going to focus on? And I think that there is a golden opportunity to be able to work on ourselves, come out of this better people, try something new, do something different. All the personal things that we think, someday I'm going to try X, or someday I'm going to do Y. Now is your time. Seize the moment. I mean, we have always, I think, as humans, thought that there's always more time out there. I'll put it off. I'll do it later. That's a lie that we tell ourselves. Tomorrow has never, ever been promised to us, ever. So today is no different than it was 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. Because 6 months ago on a Tuesday, I only had that Tuesday. I convinced myself that I had weeks and months and years to do whatever, but I really only had Tuesday. So today on Wednesday, I only have Wednesday. Tomorrow has never been promised to me. Thursday, tomorrow, is not promised to me today, Wednesday. So I have now, and what am I going to do with now? And I think if we can just stay present in where we are and really pay attention to where we're allowing our thoughts to go. Really pay attention to where we're allowing our mind to be. And, focus on what you could do. What are the possibilities in front of you? What can you control? Well, you can't control all the stuff that's going on out here, but you can control what happens in here. And you can control what happens in here. And these two things are so powerful. We can literally, we don't have to be the same person in 5 minutes that we are right now. It is really that easy to change our thinking and our habits. And, yes, habits take time to develop and skills take time to develop, but the decision to make the change can happen very quickly. And that's where it all starts. So I think there's a lot of hope in where we are right now. I think this time is ripe with possibility. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing in the artistic community, I see a real pulling together using technology like we're doing right now to connect with other people and, make the community in a different way. Mm-hmm. We're developing a new community. And I see artists reaching out to each other, offering free lessons. I just did a free tutorial this week and had for a Dutch art group. And we had people from all over the world there. And it was amazing. I got so much positive feedback. You took my head and changed my whole day. I loved being able to just create with you. One of the things I've been doing a lot is finger painting. And that's because there's something very visceral that happens for me when the paint is on my fingers. I have to let go of right and wrong because my tools aren't precision, right? So, it just becomes a way to express. And I think this is an amazing time for artists in particular because we do have so much to say. And, we are living in a very unique time in history. This has never happened to us before. And our world is going to change. And we have a voice to be able to talk about, what changes we want to see happen, how we would like to see the world become a better place. It's a great time to have a voice, actually.
So for somebody that's new, that's not actually really done any creativity at all before, where would you suggest that they start then? What do you think would be a good place to kind of, they've kind of thought, I've made my decision. I'm going to do something. This is what I'm wanting to do. Where would you suggest that they start?
Oh boy. So, and this is another really amazing thing about the time that we live in, because there are so many free resources available right now. You don't have to go to art school to become an artist anymore. So let me tell you this, I have only been doing this for 4 years. And I've always loved art, and I used to sell other people's art in an art gallery way back in the day. So I've always been fascinated by it, but it was always something for somebody else. It was always something for somebody who had, a gift that I wasn't given. And, so for me, I hear people say, oh, well, you have talent. No, I work hard. It's repetition, right? It wasn't just handed to me on a silver platter. I have literal stacks of journals that I have just practiced in, and it sucks. Like, the work in there is not great work. It's not something, but so honestly, for those people, I would say, so my brother was in the military, and in the military, they have this slogan, embrace the suck. And I think as a learner, as a beginner, if you can allow yourself to not be great, allow yourself to learn it. A lot of drawing and, painting, if you're a good drawer, you'll probably be a decent painter, because it really is about, structure and form and things like that. But it's repetition. It's hand, brain, muscle connection, and that comes from repetition. And if you're at home right now and you want to become an artist, you are at the perfect time to do that. There are YouTube tutorials out there. You can get in touch with me. I can give you great resources. It depends on what kind of art you want to do too. Do you want to draw? Do you want to learn oils? Do you want to learn watercolors? Do you want to learn acrylics? They all have
what kind of art do you do? What kind of art do you teach? What kind of art do you do?
So I started way back at the beginning 4 years ago. I started with watercolors, and I started with watercolor florals. Very similar to the florals you have on your wall back there. I keep looking at them. Yeah, I love florals. So I started there because I love color, and it allowed me to really play with color. And so I started there, but then I'm really drawn to faces, portraiture. There's something about the human face, what it can express without words. Art is one of the few things that transcends language. Somebody could speak a totally different language than me and look at something that I paint, and yet there's communication there. So the human face is really fascinating to me for that reason. So I gravitated toward faces, and I learned acrylics next. So after watercolor florals, then I went into acrylics, and I hit a wall with acrylics to some extent, because there were some things that I wanted to do. Because of my life, I get interrupted all the time by a 5-year-old. And so acrylics were really hard for me, because I would mix a color and then get distracted and pulled away. And I would come back and I would have to remix the color because it had dried. So oils became a natural transition for me. So now I work primarily in oils, although in the middle of watercolors and acrylics, I did pastels for a while, and I still really love pastels. There's an immediacy there. I love being able to optically blend with pastels instead of like mixing, you're optically mixing. I love that part of pastels. I love mixing
to blend and just that whole creaminess and love.
But for me at this point, if I had to pick a favorite, are you asking me to pick a favorite?
I'm not asking, but do tell.
Let's see. If I had to pick a favorite, I would probably say oils, just because there's a richness and a creaminess there. It really is an emotional thing. Like, I smell oils sometimes, and just like things light up in my brain. I don't know. I just have a real visceral response to them. I really do. Yeah, they're yummy.
They are indeed. They are indeed. So do you have oil classes as well as the acrylic classes then? Because I've taken one of your acrylic classes. I did that within the Let's Face It 2020.
Yes.
Fabulous class.
Thank you.
I was really drawn to your class. I'm doing the Let's Face It to explore different styles because although I'm evolving my work, I kind of felt that I haven't really explored enough to get out of my own head.
Yes.
So that was my reasoning behind it. And your particular lesson really drew me in. And I desperately wanted to paint with my fingers. However, I didn't have anything to protect them with. So I tried putting on gloves because I thought, I know, I'll use gloves. I'll be fine. No. Yeah. Because they just ended up getting in the way and being a total nuisance. Didn't like it at all. So I went back to my brushes. So anyway, long story short, really enjoyed your lesson. Do you do oil lessons?
Yes, I actually have a standalone class through Cara Bullock's website. It's called Finding Your Way with Oils. And I basically take someone who's never painted with oils and walk you through from what supplies you need, how to clean your brushes, studio safety. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that oils are somehow dangerous and, toxic and all of those things. Depends on how you use them. So I use Gamblin paints. It is only pigment mixed with linseed oil. There's nothing toxic in them. There are more toxic ingredients in acrylic paints than there are in oil paints. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Oil paints, depending on the manufacturer, are truly only pigment mixed with an oil binder. So in cleanup, I think there's a lot of misconceptions that you have to use turpentine. No, you don't. That has evolved so much from back in the day. There are non-toxic ways, solvent-free ways to paint with oils. So I walk everybody through all of that in the class, and then how to mix oils, when you would want to use a medium, what mediums you might want to use, and I demonstrate those so you don't have to go out and buy 100 mediums and try them out on your own. You can actually see in the class what they do and how they're useful. And then at the end, there are 2 lessons in there where we actually paint portraits with oils. But it's geared toward beginners. It's geared toward people who have never oil painted before. And I've gotten so much amazing feedback. And now, so the class was released in December, and there are so many of my students who have now taken that information and now they're painting oils on their own and they're doing their own thing and they're falling in love with it. And to me, as a teacher, there's nothing better. I mean, that just is absolutely so fulfilling.
Yeah. I know from my perspective, when I do paint with oils, but from my perspective, I remember when I didn't paint with oils, and I put it off because there was all this conflicting information on the internet, and it was kind of overwhelmed. And it wasn't until I'd spoken to another artist and I bought Michael Harding oils.
Those are great.
And again, they're another type of oils that, there isn't stuff in them. And they're fantastic to paint with. But I could so see why people are put off with oils.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, if you have the misconception that, this is going to, be hazardous to your health and you're going to breathe fumes, well, no, you don't have to paint with solvents. You don't have to paint with turpentine anymore. There are so many companies out there that are producing like Michael Hardin, like Gamblin, and, they've listened to artists and what artists are wanting. And there are a lot of artists out there that want to paint completely solvent-free, and those needs are being met. And, it's really, really wonderful to see these companies really listening to the people who are using their products and giving them what they want and what they need, and still putting out an amazing product. I mean, the quality is not diminished at all. There's also water-soluble oils for people who, are afraid of the cleanup process. I've not used them, but several of the people in my Introduction to Oils class have used them, and I can't tell the difference based on what they're putting out. I mean, I don't see a difference. So I think that's a great option for people too, and you can still have that same, luscious experience that you have with oils. So, I mean, we have options now that we didn't have before. So I think it's great.
It's like Sweetie Shop, isn't it, really, when it comes to art supplies, that there is always so many different art supplies coming out all the time. Sprays and now graphite. Now, is it powdered graphite?
Yes.
Or water?
There's both. There's water soluble. There's
water soluble. There's so much.
Yeah.
I love Neo Color 2s.
Oh gosh, me too. I have a bucket full of them.
It's taken me a long time to get to the place where I'm at, where I've kind of come to the point where I'm thinking, okay, I could maybe do without necessarily buying stuff all the time. Just all the time, it's just, every now and then I can be a little less like, I've got to get it and I've got to get it now. I kind of control it just to a point.
It's a sickness. It is. I just, yeah. Hey, there are worse things, right? I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't drink and I don't smoke. I've got to spend
money on
something.
Right? Exactly. Yes, I agree.
In terms of creativity, what I've found with my artistic friends is that art is not necessarily the only thing that they enjoy doing. And I think we've already kind of established that you and I are very eclectic. So I suspect you're probably the same.
Yes.
Is there anything else kind of creative that you enjoy doing?
Oh, creative. Yes. So there was a time when my older two were really little. I started scrapbooking a long time ago, and I have albums and albums of scrapbooking. I still have so many materials left from that. But I love that, the idea of giving them something that they can share with their kids and their children after them. Mm-hmm. And I haven't done a lot of it lately. I'd like to get back to that, now that things have, kind of slowed down and I have a little bit of extra time. I actually considered doing that. So there's that. I love to cook. So talking about art, I truly think that there are so many ways to be an artist. I know people that cook with foods, and I think that's art. I mean, what you just put together, and then, yeah. So I really, really enjoy cooking and baking, and we do a lot of it. My daughter and I are a little bit addicted to the Great British Baking Show. And
oh, right. Yeah.
Yes. Paul Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I hope he never sees this. Anyway, I digress. But we challenge ourselves. So there was a Christmas that we decided to do a bûche de Noël, and we've done a croquant bûche for, New Year's. And, we kind of pick the hardest stuff that we think we're really going to fail at. And we're like, can we do it? Can we pull it off? I mean, my daughter can nail a macaron like nobody's business. I mean, it's got great feet, it's got crunchy exterior, no soggy bottom. So we have fun, and yeah, there's a lot of things that we do creatively in our house, and I love seeing my kids embrace that too. Yeah. So my daughter actually painted this little thing over here, and she says she's terrible, but I'm like, I'm hoping she'll grow into, an appreciation of that she does have a gift and an ability to be able to do stuff like that as she gets older. But yeah, we do lots of creative things. I also love to write. Back in the day, I used to write poetry. I don't really write much anymore. Although at Halloween time, people that follow me on Facebook know that I do these really quirky, weird poems, and then I draw these really quirky, weird, like gremlin type characters to go with them. So I do still enjoy poetry. I've been asked by several people to put them together and put them in a book. I don't have time. Maybe I do now. But but they're weird. I was really inspired by Shel Silverstein growing up, and Where the Sidewalk Ends, and all of those Dr. Seuss and, the greats of my childhood. And so I think those have kind of stuck with me. They live with me in my heart. And when I put those out in the fall, I really enjoy the response that I get. I think it kind of takes us all back to those days of, simplicity and childlike and humor and Roald Dahl books and, that quirky kind of weird humor. I have that. I'm a little sick and twisted around the edges.
Well, we can't all be lovely and angelic,
Yes, we can't all be put together.
I am certainly far from angelic, and I can assure you I'm Scottish.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I love all things creative. I, like you, did a little bit of scrapbooking in the day. And I then discovered mixed media.
Yeah.
And that was my route back into art, was going from doing scrapbooking and discovering mixed media. And then from mixed media and having like art journals and things, that's when I then started to get back into my art. I did art when I was at school, but like most teenagers, Mum didn't really want me to pursue it particularly. She, it was you need to get a career and artist.
A real job.
Yeah, a real job. Yeah, exactly. But she meant it from a loving place. So I don't begrudge her that her trying to encourage her daughter to have a good life, and that's fine. But it was many years, and I probably got back into it probably around about the same time as you. It was around about 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that I got back into it. So yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's funny that something like that is just, it's like it just waits for us back here in the back of our head. And, then when we finally make our way back to it, it's almost like coming back home in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feeds our soul in a way that nothing else does.
No, absolutely. And it's something that I think that we as human beings have kind of lost touch with, not necessarily with painting and drawing per se, but we don't seem to have people doing hobbies the same anymore, and so I think we've lost our way, and I wonder if this time is a chance for us to actually get back to the basics again, to strip back our chaotic lives. And start doing things for ourselves. I think one of the things that was sold out in the shops was baking goods. The ingredients for baking.
Here too.
I think people are starting to kind of get back to the basics now, and I think that's hopefully out of a not so good thing is going to come something even better.
I agree. In fact. And the baking thing, we have that here too. Lindsay and my daughter and I wanted to bake something, and I was out of baking powder, and so I'm looking all over for baking powder and I just can't find it. And I'm like, well, that's maybe a good thing. I'm glad there's some people out there that maybe have never baked anything in their life and they're trying something. Yeah. So my daughter asked me 2 days ago, she said, my mom used to cross stitch and she used to crochet. And so Lindsay asked me, Mom, can we do some stitching? Will you teach me how? And for her to ask me that, because I've asked her before, when she was younger, I can show you how to do this. And she would make the little friendship bracelets and things like that with my embroidery floss, which was not what it was for, but I was like, hey, go for it.
Yeah.
But for her to reach out to me and ask me to learn something that my mother taught me, it touched me in a way that surprised me, because it was emotional for me when she asked me that. So, of course I got online and ordered some stuff and, it'll be here this week. And, she and I are going to sit and stitch together. And that's something I have such vivid memories of doing with my mom. And so, yeah, I hope someday she'll sit with her daughter and teach her daughter how. But yeah, and even online, I'm seeing, a return to doing handmade things that, somebody posted on Facebook on my feed this week, I've never baked anything and, here's my first bread. And I'm like, well, hallelujah. I mean, you did it.
I've just done my first soda bread just last week.
How was it?
It was very tasty.
Oh, I don't think I've never made a soda bread before. You'll have to send me the recipe. I'd like to try.
Very, very easy. It's now, what was it again? 2 cups of plain flour, 1 cup of milk. That could either be, I use plant-based milk, but you could use buttermilk. 2 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda. Mix it all together. Bung it, have it in a little kind of circular shape. Put the knife in to put a kind of cross in it, and then you hang it in the oven. I think it's 200 degrees Celsius. Is it? Yes, Celsius. But you'll have Fahrenheit. I don't know what the conversions are.
No clue. But I can find out. We have Google.
And it was about 20 to 30 minutes.
That sounds amazing.
And so salt. I forgot the salt. The pinch of salt.
Oh yeah, you gotta have the salt for the baking soda.
So yeah, it was very, very easy. It took me 10 minutes to make, and flung it in the oven, and voila.
See, I'm gonna try it now. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I particularly chose the soda bread because it doesn't have any yeast in it. Yeah. I actually have a health condition. I have a lot of difficulties with my digestive system. So
no good.
I have to be really strict with what I eat. And I haven't had bread for a long, long, long time because it just doesn't agree with me. I think I've discovered that it's the yeast and the soda bread. I'm hoping that that's the case because I've been okay with the soda bread.
Good.
So yeah,
that would be a nice option to know that you can still have bread, and I'm going to try it. My daughter and I will make in the evening. Sometimes we make a rose hibiscus tea.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It is lovely. It really is, with a little honey and a little lemon and a little bit of cinnamon. It's amazing. Yeah, that's kind of our nighttime sometimes.
That sounds really nice. In fact, I would imagine that looks really nice as well. It'd be very aesthetically pleasing.
It's kind of a pink color. It's really beautiful. I know that sounds so weird, but it's so beautiful. It's kind of got this rosy pink color to it. Oh yeah, it's nice.
Do you think it might inspire a painting or two?
Oh, maybe. I get inspired by the weirdest things. I really do sometimes. Sometimes it's just something that someone will say and an idea will come into my head, a color. What about you? What inspires you that's just weird? Because I know sometimes we artsy types, we get our inspiration in weird places.
Yeah. Is it clean enough to see on the internet?
I don't know, but I want to know. You can edit it out.
Well, I have been known to have the odd idea when I've been sat in the toilet.
Oh, nice. You know, I think lots of things happen on the toilet people just don't ever say.
However, having said that, I think I've had many an inspiration in the shower. Definitely in the shower. I do have a tendency to let loose in the shower. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the shower, but I enjoy singing in the shower. And my thoughts, I seem to get clarity of my thoughts when I'm in the shower. So yeah, that's probably where I get a lot of my inspiration.
I think that honestly makes sense though, because in the shower, I mean, we're relaxed and, you know, our ideas can come more freely because we're not preoccupied with, you know, everything else. So that makes total sense to me, that would be a great place for inspiration to come. Yeah, I like it.
Oh dear. So what about yourself? What's something that you would be willing to share with us that maybe your students and other people might not necessarily know, that might be seen as a bit quirky about you?
Oh boy. I have lots of quirks. Let's see. What can I say safely on the internet? Okay, so here's one. And unless people know me really, really well, they wouldn't know this. There are probably a small handful of people that know this about me. I like to drive really fast.
Okay.
In fact, I think if there were parallel universes, somewhere out there, I'm like a Danica Patrick. I am a race car driver for sure in one of my lifetimes. I don't do it unsafely when there's a lot of people around, but I find country roads and where there isn't anybody, and I like to drive really, really fast. It's a thing for me. What I'd really love to do someday is they have driving schools where they will put you on a skid pad and let you, take out their high performance cars and, do skids and J turns and someday.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Someday, girl, someday I'm going to do that.
Fabulous. I always wanted to have a go on a skid pan, just to allow me to know what it feels like to be out of control, so that I can not panic. For like when I'm driving in the snow and things, if the car slides, I know what to do. When I was a teenager, well, not when I was a teenager, but in my younger adult years, when I first started driving, I had friends who taught me how to control a skid, and took me out into like a car park without anybody there, without any cars, and allowed me to actually feel what it was like. I mean, it wasn't a full-on skid or anything, but it has helped. Able to kind of save me on a couple of occasions when the snow was really bad. And
because I think our instinct is to do the wrong thing in that situation. We want to, tense up and, steer, the wrong way and, overreact. And I think that's great that they did that for you.
It was very helpful, I have to say. And, as an adult, I actually ride a motorcycle. So
you do? See, you're quirky too.
I don't know what's scarier though, going on a motorcycle or going on stage playing the Widow Corney.
What? Really? I love it. Tell me more.
What do you want to know?
Did you really go on stage and do that?
Yeah. I played the Widow Corney in the amateur dramatics.
Oh, good for you. That's amazing.
I loved every second of it.
Were you scared?
The heart was like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
then honestly, for me, when I'm driving really fast, it's my heart's going, crazy, but it reminds me I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
And, as long as I'm not, risking life and limb or somebody else's, I love that reminder. I love that reminder of, feeling the blood rush and, that when you ride a motorcycle, the wind in your hair and in your face. And it's, those moments that remind us that, we are truly vibrant and alive. And, I crave those moments. I really do. And I'm not a real thrill seeker. Like I won't bungee jump and I won't skydive and, all those crazy things. But, for me, just driving fast. I mean, I absolutely love it. And, being on stage, honestly, so I did theater when I was young. I think I was braver then. That's very brave of you that you did that.
Thank you. It's something that I'd always wanted to do. When I was at the high school, I didn't do it at the high school. It was at primary school. I did do. I was understudy for Dodger, for Dodger, and I was his best mate. What's his best mate called? Oh, I can't remember the name now. But I was understudy for Dodger, and I loved it, but I was too shy to continue it. So again, it's something else that as I was getting older, and it's interesting. It took me to get cancer to then decide that I wanted to do the things I was going to do the things I wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
So after having that and recovering from that, I decided that was something I wanted to do. So that's exactly what I did. I went and I did shows.
There's nothing like a crisis in your life like that to kind of be an impetus for all of the things that we have, put off or determined there was another time that we could do it. And that's amazing that you used that to allow yourself to do all of the things that, fear stood in the way of. And it's funny, I have, friends who, I want to do this, but I'm afraid, what if I fail? What if I'm terrible? What if people make fun of me? What if, and so I just want to say this here because maybe somebody will see this someday that needs to hear it, but fear is a liar. And fear is the great immobilizer, and it will stop us from living our best lives. It will stop us from being all that we can be and doing all that we could do. And it will even stop us from touching other people that we could touch because we're afraid that they might reject us. And what I found in my own life with fear, and I have to remind myself, I don't have this down or anything, like I'm not master of fear or anything. I have to remind myself consciously all the time that fear's kind of like a cloud. When we look up in the sky and we see a cloud, it looks solid, right? Like it has substance.
Yeah.
But if we're in an airplane and we're flying through that cloud, it is nothing but vapor and we flow right through it. So the only way to deal with fear is to move through it.
Yeah.
And I think when we do step right up toe to toe with our fears, our insecurities, our whatever, and we just push through and do it anyway, feel the fear, do it anyway, it vaporizes. There was nothing of substance other than what we gave it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a beautiful thing, that all of those things that you didn't allow yourself to do, all of a sudden that crisis became a pivot point for you to look at all those things and say, well, that's not real. What am I really afraid of? Let's do it anyway. And yeah, I love that.
And it's such an important lesson as well for creativity, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
that it is the biggest stopper of people being
yeah,
creative. I mean, how
yeah,
many times do you get told, "Oh, I can't even draw a stick figure"?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Can't draw a
Let's
stick
try.
figure?
Let's try.
Exactly.
So I'm really glad you said that, because there's a book out there, and I don't know if you've read it, called Art and Fear. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't read that one.
Okay, so there's a book out there called Art and Fear, and there was a time, I guess it's been about 2.5 years ago, that I was kind of at a crossroads, and I was frustrated with what I was creating, and really felt like I was done. Like it had run its course for me, and I was done. And I don't even know how I came across that book. I don't think it was recommended to me. I think I found it as a fluke. But I bought this book called Art and Fear, and it changed me radically.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason and that I figured out after reading that book, part of the reason that I felt like art had run its course and I was just done with it, was because there wasn't any me in it. It wasn't an outlet of self-expression. I was just trying this and trying that, but I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't putting any of me in it. It didn't have meaning to me. And the reason that I didn't have any me in it and there wasn't any meaning to it was because I was afraid. I was afraid of, if I put myself out there and art became personal, what would people say? How would they respond? If I truly communicated how I felt and what I was thinking, would that be received, or would I be rejected? And when art is personal, it almost is like standing naked in the middle of the road. Mm-hmm. Like you have just poured your heart and soul into something that you created out of nothing.
Yeah.
And now it's out there for the world to see and to judge and critique. And at first that was painfully difficult for me to do. And, it's been probably 2 years now that I've really been putting stuff out there that has felt personal to me. Mm-hmm. And now I don't really care anymore. Now the people that respond to it, and the people that don't. And I don't take that as a reflection of me. Mm-hmm. I just create art because I need to do that. Yeah. I need that for me. I create for me. I don't create for someone else's response. So I think that was a huge shift for me. And that book, Art and Fear, addresses a lot of that, the fears that all artists have. And when I read that book, there were parts of it that I was like, get out of my head, right? Like, mm-hmm. How do you know that this is what I'm afraid of? How do you know that this is where my thinking is? But it's because we are not unique in that. As artists, these are very common things that we all struggle with. And once I figured that out, that I wasn't somehow uniquely, faulty in my thinking, that this is just something that's human nature and that we all kind of struggle with on different levels, it kind of freed me up. Mm-hmm. To be able to put things out there that meant something to me, put things out there that were personal to me, and not take the response personally.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. It's great.
Yeah, well, we can put a link, or at least the title, mm-hmm. and the author in the description for anybody who wants to read it, because I think it is quite important for not just in creativity, but in everything in life, really, isn't it? As a mental health nurse myself, it is very important to me that people take responsibility for their own mental well-being, because we all have mental health. Yes. There is a big difference between mental health problems and mental illness. Yes. And a lot of mental health problems are very preventable. Yeah. And certainly much more manageable than people believe at this moment in time. Yes. Yes, there are mental illness in the world, and it's very, very debilitating, and it's horrible to experience. And mental health difficulties
can also feel just as debilitating and horrible. But it's much more likely for people to be able to do something about it. And I would strongly encourage people to, approach the professionals to be able to ascertain whether or not there is an illness, or whether it's something that they can potentially help themselves with. And even if it's an illness, people can still help themselves as well as get the professional help. There's that kind of balance of, rather than just, we seem to have become we seem very reliant on things, don't we?
External things. Yes, things that are out there, right? I need that out there to fix me. Yes. Yeah. And I think, it'll be interesting too during this time in history, because we don't have all the external things right now. We are kind of in our own, little bubbles of self-protection and distancing. I think, that's going to be interesting to see how that shifts. If people will start taking more personal responsibility for, I always say that I have a physical life, but I have a thought life as well. Yeah. And how I manage my thought life is just as important as how I manage my physical life. Because where I allow my thoughts to go will determine my attitude, my outlook, my mood, my relationships. And then from here, it extends from me outward to other people that are around me. So, on days that I have a really bad day, I had a really bad day this week, and my daughter came in the room. She's very empathic. Like, she picks up on things very easily like I do. And she walked in the room and she's like, "You're off today, and it's bugging me." and I really, I had to look at that, and I was like, you know what? You're right. And I don't know why. And I said, do you want to go? Let's go outside. So we went outside, got some fresh air. We took the finger paints outside. We finger painted with Christian, listened to some music. I had to hit the reset button. I had to refocus. I mean, I felt it, but the fact that she acknowledged it, I mean, what we're doing up here is going to come out here. So I really hope that this becomes a time where people become more self-reliant and more self-aware, instead of always leaning on the external to provide our contentment and our happiness and our well-being. I mean,
with the exception of art supplies, of course.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yes. What would we be without those? In fact, there are art companies right now that have big sales going on. So I actually went shopping this week. Those small little mom and pop art companies, they need our support right now. Yeah. So I'm doing my civic duty and stimulating the economy in all the ways that I know how.
Really? Yeah.
See, did I just put a really positive spin on that, or what?
Absolutely. That was impressive. So, just to kind of recap, obviously we were talking about people's thoughts and moods and how they can change, and we seem to kind of demonize a lot of things as well, and we demonize even negative feelings, but I often say to people, allow the negative feelings to come out, acknowledge them, have your bad day if you need to, but the trick is not to stay in it.
Okay. I just had a conversation with a really good friend of mine about exactly that this week. That's so funny that you say that. My mom was a very wise woman, and she told me, honey, emotionally, you think about it like a road trip. I mean, you can be going along in life and, you can stop off in Missouri and be miserable, but you can't unpack your bags and pitch a tent and live in Missouri. Like, you have to get back in your car, allow it, right? Visit Missouri as long as you need to, give it a time frame, and then get back in your car and go. Keep going. We can't, it's okay to feel a negative feeling. It's okay to feel afraid. It's what do we do when we feel afraid? I think that is really important. Do we allow it to paralyze us, or do we experience it, acknowledge it, and then move on from it? And sometimes move on in spite of it and through it. Like, sometimes we just have to do stuff afraid. Sometimes we just have to just sheer force of will.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, we look back and we were like, why was that such a big deal?
Yeah.
You know, I created the big deal in my head. A lot of our fears are very unrealistic, but I think you're right. I think we tend to, you know, want to push away a negative feeling because, oh, that might make me weak, or that might make me seem weak to someone else, or, you know, there's lots of reasons. There may be internal reasons that we don't do that. Like, oh, I felt that once and here's what happened.
Yeah.
And so I'm never going to do that again. Well, that may not, how we respond to it and how we move through it is a choice now. And it isn't going to be the same as it was 5 years ago or whenever so yeah, I think we do tend to demonize those things instead of just allowing them and then allowing them to pass and then moving on.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to allow them to consume us. We can move through them and keep going. Yeah, I think that's really important. And you probably see that a lot.
Yeah. I do. And I think it's important at this particular juncture as well in life, because there's going to be a lot of people having negative feelings. And I know from my own personal experience, I have just done a 2-week stint in the house because my son wasn't well. So I had to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And you would think that because I paint on my own and, you know, I do a lot of things, and so I'm never really ever bored when I'm in the house. But there were times where even I felt a little antsy and a little restless. It passed, it went, because that's just the kind of person that I am. But I then started to think, well, do you know, I wonder how many people out there who don't necessarily have the same understanding of what they're feeling, and that same belief that it's going to pass. And I think what we've been kind of talking about intermittently throughout this conversation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we've really kind of touched on how things do pass and we will get through this, and there is a lot of positivity and a lot of hope to hold on to be our life raft.
Yeah, I think so. I think the one constant in life is change. And if we acknowledge that and we know that, then when things are difficult or hard or challenging, we can understand and embrace it in a different way, knowing that it will pass, just like everything else passes. And it will be okay. I think at the heart of myself, I am just a diehard optimist. And, you know, I have friends who do, you know, struggle with that. And I think it's really important for those of us who are optimistic to be available to those people right now and to reach out to them. And, you know, being a friend to me, my girlfriends and I have this, we have this tagline that being a friend is being a reminding partner. And so those people that we know might not have that, you know, innate optimistic streak, being a reminding partner for them that, you know, it's going to be okay. We are going to be okay. As in all things in life, it's changing. Yes. And if anybody tells you that they can foresee the outcome of any of this, they're lying. There's no one who can foresee the changes that will happen to us, not just individually, but as a culture and as a global community. But I am very optimistic that this is a time that we can make so many positive changes. And especially uniquely as artists, that we have a voice that I feel growing. I truly do feel that, and I see it in the artistic community. I was just talking to a friend this week about, just the number of people that are being drawn to art right now in ways that they weren't before. I think it speaks to us on a very deep human level in a way that lots of things don't. So I think we have a very unique opportunity as artists to put that positivity out into the world right now and to be a positive force of change. So that makes me really happy. And I see people connecting through what we're doing and social media, and that makes me really happy. I love that this is not, it doesn't have to be a time of, we may be social distancing physically, but we don't have to distance emotionally. This connection right here, I mean, you and I are going to be friends, and I just know that. And I have friends all over the world, and our technology allows us that ability. We need to use it, and we need to be reaching out to the people around us and being that force of positive in their life right now. I think the world needs that. They need us to be able to be a voice of beauty and art and imagination and remind the world of the best parts of who we are as humans. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of answered my next question, but there might be something else that you'd like to kind of add to it. Because one of the things that I've heard some creatives saying in different groups and things, in comments and videos that I've watched and stuff, that they feel there's a sense of guilt that they feel when they're creating art and positive stuff when there's so much other stuff going on outside that's not so positive, and so there's that kind of sense of guilt of doing the positive stuff. Is there any message in particular you would like to give to those people who feel that they're just so stressed out and freaked out about what's going on that they're kind of losing that voice, that ability to be able to create?
Yes. So I remember in the days here in the United States after 9/11, and the nightly talk shows, the comedy shows, and how much those comedians struggled because they had that huge sense of guilt about, how can I be funny right now when everyone's hurting? And I remember needing so much to laugh and to be reminded of humor and lightness, and that we don't have to lose all that just because things seem dark. In fact, sometimes in those moments, that's exactly what we need. And I think art holds that same place in a world that sometimes seems to be so void of beauty. We can be a reminder of all that is beautiful, of even ugly art, the parts of us, we were talking about those negative emotions that, sometimes we moralize those and we, devalue them. And we need that too, because as humans, we have both sides, right? We have the light and we have the dark, and we are an intermingling of both. And to deny one in pursuit of the other always isn't healthy either. Yeah. And I don't care either side. If you're, denying the light because you're consumed with the dark, or if you're, denying the dark because you're consumed with the light, they're both and we need both of us. Both of those make us who we are as human beings. And so there's a place for both of those in art as a full expression of our humanity. And so I think to those people who are out there and feel paralyzed by world events and feel like there isn't a place to be creative or to tap into that because it seems trivial right now or whatever, what we're doing is anything but trivial.
Mm-hmm.
I think art gets to the core of the beauty of who we are as people. And I think the world needs that. That's why we have museums. That's why, we revere art in such a way, because it does cut through politics. It cuts through nationalities. It cuts through religion. It cuts through ethnicity. It cuts through all of the artificial boundaries that we create as humans between each other. Art transcends all of that. And it cuts right down to the soul of who we are.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful. That ability to just pour out who we are into our journals or on a piece of canvas or, whatever your substrate is, just pour yourself out. And it doesn't always have to be pretty. It's still valuable. I mean, sometimes our negative emotions need to be out there as much as our positive.
Yeah.
And we are both. So give that space. That's my encouragement to anybody out there who feels like now is not the time. This is the perfect time. We all need that. We need to acknowledge what binds us together, our common thread as humans. I
guess we could equally encourage people to immerse themselves in different ways in the creativity to then get them to that point where they feel more inspired to actually act on it as well. So like you were saying about the art supplies, whilst you said it in jest, I think it's a very serious point. It's about supporting the people that need to be supported at this moment in time, and perhaps that is your favourite artist. And perhaps it is about watching their either their free lessons if you haven't got the money, or watching them on YouTube or whatever, then for them to still feel valued. So that's kind of, I guess, in a way, helping yourself too, because the moment you immerse yourself in that world, you're more likely to then kind of get that little spark back, then help you to then act on it, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And there's that funny little button that says share on it. I mean, I think it's really, really important to, when we see something that inspires us and, makes us feel something, share it with your other friends. And this is the perfect time to put it out there and share it with other people. We need that.
Absolutely. And please, if you really enjoy this video, give me the thumbs up.
I did.
And obviously I'm aware that we've been talking for some time now. So I'm just wondering, in terms of kind of sort of asking maybe the last couple of questions, we've talked a lot about art. We've talked a lot about how that helps with our emotions and our feelings. We've talked quite a lot around about our mental well-being, and I think that's been absolutely fantastic. It's been very interesting for me, I have to say, really getting to know you today. That's been fabulous. I'm just wondering, what kind of things do you enjoy that isn't necessarily creative, but it's about switching off and just having a moment? So is there a particular television program that you enjoy watching? Do you go down the rabbit hole of Pinterest?
Oh gosh, yes. Let's see. So I have an 18-year-old son, and he for years now has turned me on to memes. So it's, these little quick pictures that are humorous, and I can get lost for a good hour on Reddit or Imgur, and, I need to laugh. I have a very basic need to laugh. I have to just shut out everything sometimes. And it is funny to me because when I finally take my downtime and I go curl up on my little corner of the couch and I got my little phone and, I click that button and, I'm scrolling through the memes, I can almost feel the endorphins. Like it's just that good for me to be able to, and I have a very twisted sense of humor. So, memes really do it for me. But what's funny is that if you look at my text chain with my son, it's just memes back and forth. I mean, we communicate through memes, and it's really funny because we'll get on a theme and then it's like, okay, can I find one to answer what you just said? And, so it's kind of become this comical thing between the two of us, this language of pictures, goofy pictures. So there's that.
But we're involved in grunts, right enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pinterest, I can get lost on there. And I have a couple girlfriends that send me, funny things or really cool things that they find on Pinterest. And so we do those back and forth a lot. I love that. And I create vision boards on Pinterest. So every year, I choose a word for the year and I create a vision board for that word and what I basically want to invite into my life. It's how I got started in art. My first word was embrace, and the challenge was to embrace a part of yourself that you've let go of. And so I started drawing, and it made such a radical change in who I was that every year since then, I think that was 4 or 5 years ago, that I've done that every year since. So I've had, a word of the year. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm constantly adding to my vision board of, what I want in my life, what I'm envisioning for this year. And it has quotes and pictures and art and, all kinds of things are on those boards. So that's another one of my guilty pleasures. I do get lost in TV. We do, Netflix binges from time to time. We did The Witcher and yeah. Now we're watching Altered Carbon. Boy, this is going to be funny to watch. If somebody comes back to this like 5 years from now, they're going to be like, oh man, I remember that show. Yeah, and right now the big deal, but we've made a vow that we're going to finish Altered Carbon. We're almost done with that one, but then The Tiger King is the new one that's out, and it's supposed to be very, very strange. So that's our next one.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that one here in the UK yet. I've watched the other two that you've mentioned.
Okay. Yeah. So, and, I love movies. And I don't enjoy them as much at home as I did in the theater. My son worked at a huge movie theater. They had 19 screens, and I loved that he worked there because it was a perk that I got to see movies for free. So, I would go, even alone, I would go. I love going to see movies. So that's another really awesome escape for me. But music is probably my biggest one. I have a playlist for every mood, for everything. Yeah. So I even have a playlist for driving. When I drive really fast, I have a special playlist for that. So
yeah, I can imagine what would be on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No.
So you collect it with your music then? Because I listen to everything from classical to rock.
Me too. Yeah. So yeah, I have a classical playlist. I have a workout playlist. I have a playlist for when we go camping. I have 80s alternative, 80s pop, 80s rock. I have Pink Floyd has its own playlist for me. Let's see what else. Yeah, I have everything. So EDM, which is electronic dance music. I took my son to see Deadmau5 this past year. I love dance music. I love to dance. So yeah, that's a lot of my driving playlist is EDM dance music. What else? Gosh, there's a tiny bit of country here and there. I'm a Texan, so I think that's required.
Okay.
But not much. what else is on? Oh gosh, I have everything. But yeah, I have a very, like, my musical tastes are all over the place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's next for Larissa? What's in the
boy, that is a really good question. So one of the goals that I have that I'm playing with, we'll see, is I'd like to do my own classes on my website, and just short classes, not necessarily a big, long, blown out class, but things that I get asked a lot. People that will message me, you know, how do I know if my values are off? You know, maybe a short class just on that. Or I have some ideas. I have a list of, you know, little short mini classes that I'd like to put out there that would be inexpensive, you know, accessible to anybody, but would provide them with, you know, really valuable information. Things I wish I would have known when I started out that I've picked up along the way that have made life easier for me now that I know them and I see them. You know, for me, it's not really so much about, you know, the money, but just supporting my art supply habit and being able to keep buying canvases and got to feed the habit. So I think I'd really like to do that. I am also in the middle of studying real estate to get my real estate license, although now is probably not a great time in the world for that. So we'll see what happens with that part. Although it might be, I don't know. I mean, I think things are going to shift and I don't know how they're going to shake out. And I already have all the materials, so why not just finish, right?
Yeah.
I'll probably refocus on that and finish that. And, you know, honestly, I just want to stay open. I just want to allow the things that are changing around me to happen instead of fighting them and wishing that they were something else. And, you know, it's always the disparity between, you know, what is and what we think should be that trips us up. And so I don't want to get caught up in that. I want to embrace what is and play the ball where it lies and allow myself the ability to change. I mean, you know, that flexibility, the ebb and flow of life. And, you know, I always allow myself the ability to change my plan. I always like to have a plan, but I always like to leave myself the ability to change that plan depending on what changes around me and in me. Yeah. So those things are all flexible. I mean, there are things that are in my mind. There are things that I am toying with, but, you know, nothing's in stone right now, and I'm okay with that.
Sounds very sensible.
Really?
Seriously, it does. It sounds very sensible. I mean, we need to have those plans, but we also need to have that flexibility because, as we've found out, you know, things can change in an instant.
Yeah, they sure can. They sure can. And, you know, it's okay. And I think the more we can be okay with those changes, the better we're going to be, you know, as it all shakes out. You know, I don't think anybody knows what will come in the days ahead. And, you know, I think giving ourselves that space to, you know, move and, you know, adjust along with those changes, I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
So Larissa, I've been asking you a shed load of questions. So my final question to you is, would you like to ask me one?
Yes. So I'm really intrigued by the fact that you work in mental health. Because I think that is just it's such an important job what you do. You know, it is a difference maker for so many people, and you are so creative. So I want to know how your job informs your art. So how does art give you the ability to express some of the things that you feel and process in your job? Or in what ways do you see your life intermeshed, right? What you do professionally and what you do artistically. How do those mesh?
That's a very interesting question. So wasn't what I was expecting, but
yay!
But equally,
I got you this time.
But equally, that's a really very interesting question, and I'm impressed with that question. That's a very, very good question. I think a little bit of everything of what you kind of suggested, really. It kind of gives me the ability to process some of the difficult emotions that I can come away from work with. Mm-hmm. But equally, it also allows me to, I don't paint the people I meet, but I see so many different emotions and characters within people, and I meet so many people mm-hmm. that it's a fascination that I have mm-hmm. anyway, mm-hmm. if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense.
My big thing that I do most frequently is portraits. Mm-hmm. I would consider myself to be a portrait artist. Mm-hmm. I've always been fascinated with people, and so I wonder if maybe more my art has kind of resulted in me becoming a nurse in the first instance, mm-hmm. Because I've always had that fascination for people, and so therefore the way my life has gone when I didn't do art anymore kind of led me to become a nurse. Mm-hmm. And so it's possibly had the other effect on me as well, because mm-hmm. I've sought out people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. Yeah. Well, and I think portrait art, whether you're a realist, right, and you paint in the style of realism, or you're an expressionist or an impressionist, or I think there's so many ways that you can portray the range of human emotions, and you deal with them on a daily basis in your work. So I can see where that would translate directly into your art. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. And I love what you do. I didn't know when you first asked me to do this, I didn't know that that's what you did for your career. And I have so much admiration for what you do. And I know that your job is probably going to become very challenging in these days. So my heart goes with you. You are such a difference maker in this world. So thank you.
Oh, you're getting me all.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Not just to talk to you, but to connect with you. This is such an amazing thing to be able to sit and have a cuppa with you and, feel like at the end of it that I have a friend that, I get to walk through this life with now. And I love that. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing, because, I just randomly messaged you. You didn't know me from Adam. And so, I think that speaks volumes about who you are as a person. And thank you very much for allowing me to come into your life. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It's been a pleasure for me.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope everybody that's watching also feels the same. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so and would like to, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell, that way you get notifications of any further videos. So thank you very much. Take care, everybody, and don't forget, look after your mental well-being, because nobody else can.
Amen.
Bye for now.
Bye.